All right, so this week we blast into Christopher Nolan's newest movie creation, Oppenheimer. Based on, I don't know how closely based on, probably like loosely based on true events and a book. Okay, so this week we blast into Christopher Nolan's newest film, Oppenheimer, based on the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer and the biography titled American Prometheus. This film deals with the Manhattan Project and the fallout of that project and the fallout of all the things that happen in Oppenheimer's life. It has quite a cast. I cannot list everybody. I'm not going to because it's too many names. And it's quite a sight to behold and to listen to and to experience with your eyes.
Yes. All those things are very true, Zach. And this is one of the most anticipated films of the year. And it is one half of the fabled Barbenheimer weekend. But one question is more important than the rest. And that is Oppenheimer good?
We are going to find out within the hour.
Let's do it.
But is it good podcast? Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the podcast. Zach, you look flush.
Yes.
Why is that?
I'm sick. I have a fever.
Yeah,
it's like 101.
sucks. You probably should go to bed. But no,
yeah.
You're here.
You know what's crazy? I felt okay
crazy?
yesterday, but I was like, I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to wake up early. I went to bed at like 9 p.m. and didn't wake up until like 8:45. And I was like, something's going on here.
Yeah.
And then throughout the day, I've just felt worse and worse.
Hannah woke up quite sick this morning too. I actually worked from home because she's got her stomach's all messed up. And remember how like 5 years ago she was like in the hospital for like a month and a half?
I mean, she was having like, and they put her on like an elimination diet at one point. Like it was a whole thing.
It's like that kind of pain again. So we're hoping that it doesn't become that because that was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry
It's been
to
a
hear
day.
that.
Anyway, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Callahan.
And I'm your host, Flush Zach Olson, which y'all can't see that unless you watch us on Instagram. But follow us on Instagram, and you can see Flush Zach Olson.
Zach, we appreciate you toughing this out. But I also had the feel that you want to talk about this movie.
I do.
But first, hope you've had a good weekend. Well, actually, we're going to talk a little bit about your weekend. I want to hear about it. And I'm sure our listeners will want to hear this story too. But please like and subscribe. This is part one of the Barbenheimer weekend, and then this coming weekend we are doing Barbie, which you have seen, right?
I have. I'm probably going to go see it a second time.
Gotcha, because I have not seen it. I'm seeing it this weekend when I get back from Colorado. So I'm very excited. But we can jump right in, shall we? Because you need to go to bed.
Yeah, in about 15 minutes I need to be asleep.
Sick. We're going to be quick. Zach,
can you see Athena's foot just like sticking up?
I can, yeah.
Just like right here.
Zach, you literally just got out of this film, didn't you?
Yeah, about an hour ago.
So you can go first, even though I know this is your episode. Or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. So there's a reason I got out of the film
tell
just
us
an
the
hour
whole
ago.
weekend. Please tell us the whole story.
So we're going to start this story about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Yes. And please, forgive our tangent, but this is required listening.
So about 2 months ago, right when they started, whenever it was that they started selling the IMAX tickets, because those were on sale well before the movie released.
Yes.
We purchased IMAX tickets for a showing on Sunday. Well, first let me back up. We thought we were purchasing tickets for a Saturday night showing.
Yes.
When we purchased them in one big group. There were like 12 of us. So it was like, these tickets are like $25 a pop. So we're talking like a $400 ticket sale for Fandango. Yep. This was all through Fandango. When we bought the tickets, it said Sunday at 2:50 p.m. And we're like, oh shit, can everyone still go? It was okay because everyone could go except for Hunter. And we don't, I mean, that was fine, you know.
Yes, no one really likes me anyway.
But we were able to attend the showing. So we drive up there. This is at the Mall of Georgia, which if you know where the Mall of Georgia is in comparison to Atlanta or Peachtree City, which is where I was, it's quite a trek. It's 70 miles from my dad's house, which I dropped.
You can drive to Athens.
Yeah.
For that long.
Right. Well, no.
Okay.
Athens is further.
From where I used to live, it was like 73 miles. Doesn't matter. Continue.
Okay. Yeah. So it's quite a trek up there. And we get up there, and we're walking into the movie, and the man scans our tickets, which say on them, like, you know, the little QR code? Right under the QR code, it says 2:50, Sunday, July 23rd. He scans them, and he says, no, these are for last night's showing. We can't let you in. There's people in your seats. To which we are like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
We weren't the only ones that happened to. There were other people That's insane. That got turned away for the exact same reason. People who were like dressed up in like suits with the little hat, little Oppenheimer hat, like people who were ready. And apparently, because one of the theater attendants, the guys like scanning tickets or whatever, told me that last night's showing was basically, or 2 nights ago, the Saturday night showing that we thought we were buying tickets to, but it told us that we didn't, was essentially empty.
That's insane, man.
Because everyone thought that their tickets were for Sunday. So we didn't get to see it. They comped us some tickets for Mission Impossible, so I got to see that a second time. It's about the same on a second watch, I'll say that. And then they gave us... So, Hunter, actually, we have tickets to see Oppenheimer.
Yes. At
the Mall of Georgia, which is quite a trek, at like 11:30 p.m. on Wednesday, August 9th.
Oh, my God.
In addition to that, because the whole group did not want to make that drive again. They were like, just get us our money back, and if you get tickets, like, y'all can have them. So we have tickets to see Oppenheimer in IMAX, and we also both have an IMAX voucher that we can use for, like, anything.
Hell yeah.
So, Alec, who purchased the tickets, is attempting to get a full refund through Fandango, because that was Regal that did that comped us all that stuff. Even though I don't think it was their fault. And originally they were like, yeah, we can't do anything. But then they gave us tickets to Mission Impossible. And then when we got out, we were just leaving, and they were like, hey, wait, we want to make this right. I guess the manager talked to like a regional manager or something, and the regional manager was like, please give them tickets.
Just do something, yeah.
Right.
I'll go on record as I will want to try and make that. That's sick. I would love to see Oppenheimer once again, but also
70 millimeter.
Like IMAX. Are you kidding me? Heck yeah. We'll get home at like 3 a.m., but whatever.
You'll probably get home closer to 3:30 or 4.
Yeah. Might just have to spend the night with you.
Yeah, you can, but it's still about 50 miles. It's pretty far.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so I was supposed to talk about how I felt about the movie.
Yes, because you did see it.
I did see it. I saw it very recently. It was haunting, man. Like, it was extremely... Like, it was great. It was really well done. I mean, it's Christopher Nolan. But it doesn't matter what kind of movie he makes, right? He could be making a movie about a shitty magician who didn't keep his secret from Cutter. He could be making a movie about a little top that spins, and if it doesn't stop spinning, that means you're in a dream. or he could be making a Batman movie. He has this style that is so unmistakable. And there were scenes in this movie. There was a sex scene that only Christopher Nolan could have done that in that way, you know? And it was just so... But anyways, all that to say, this movie is so haunting. I got out of the theater and I was just like, good Lord. I'm going to quit my job and just like learn physics so that I can undo... Like if we should undo nuclear fission, just like cancel it.
Just be like, it can't happen anymore.
Right.
Yeah, dude. So I saw this Friday night. Mind you, while it wasn't an IMAX, NCG, it was on the Extreme Theater, whatever. It was good. It was a good showing. Packed. Mm-hmm. It was packed out. I haven't been this in awe at the movie theater in a long time. And Athena's so loud I could hear her drinking water. Anyway,
she's a thirsty girl.
I'm thinking of like the last theater experience that was this intense, and I thought of like Everything Everywhere All at Once, but that's a different kind of intense. You know what I'm saying?
It's a different
experience. This was like from go, just like captivated. And I ran into a friend of mine, Jesse Dukes. I think you know Jesse Dukes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He did my wedding, so we talked about a lot of stuff. But I ran into him and we talked about movies. And he had just seen Oppenheimer too. And I said to him, I was like, dude, it's so funny because we get the privilege, and I say privilege because we are lucky to be able to watch a lot of movies for this podcast. A lot of movies that we love, a lot of movies that are fun, a lot of movies that we don't like, but a lot of movies. And like you said, there's just something about Nolan's films.
Mm-hmm.
Within minutes, I was like, God, this is just so much better than anything I've seen in such a long time. I don't know what it is. Just the framing, the direction, the editing, everything. I was like, this is just elevated. And I'm a Nolan fanboy, so I'm biased and I want to love it. I wanted to love it, and I did love it. And like, but also there was some really good humor in there that was really kind of natural and organic, but also kind of dark. And yes, good Lord, the sex scene that people just kept talking about. They were like, oh my God, it's a big deal. It was tasteful and it was elegant, but it was also really interesting how he portrayed it. And then there's one scene like that's very intimate that I want to discuss that people, I guess, thought was strange, but actually it's really interesting when you kind of break it down.
That's the one I was talking about. I wasn't talking about the traditional sex scene. I was talking about the second one.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. But then like at the end when he like pulls the rug, you're just sort of sitting there just like, good Lord, man. Like, and it's just phenomenal. And the cast, oh my God, people just kept showing up. And I was like,
I know.
Who's not in this movie?
I know.
It's
people
amazing.
that you love, like, okay, I can't name everybody, but I'm going to throw out like 3 names that I was not expecting that I don't think were advertised.
Yeah. There's one that got me. Let's see if you include it.
Well, the one that stuck out to me the most was Gary Oldman as Truman. I was like, oh, okay, that's a good casting. But also characters that you're supposed to hate. And Christopher Nolan went out and got an actor that people hate, Casey Affleck, as that fucking
the like
anti-Russian, which I guess all the U.S. military is anti, but he was like very like. Yeah. Anyways,
but also there was some younger names in this that I thought was awesome to see. Like the guy who played Grove's like right hand man with the glasses, he played like Green Goblin in the Spider-Man 2. His name was like Dane or something like that. And then there was the kid from Hereditary was in it for a minute. He was like one of the scientists. He was like a student.
You're right.
And so, like, it was such just a wide spectrum of people. And then Cillian Murphy was just, I mean, tops. And then also Robert Downey Jr. It's so great to see him not playing Iron Man. I loved Iron Man, but, like, I smell, like, Oscar noms for these people. Like, Emily Blunt was incredible. Florence Pugh was incredible. Matt Damon was incredible. Everybody's in this. Everybody's in this. I forget his name. He has a long, crazy name, but his name is David, I think. But it's Polka Dot Man.
David Dastmalchian.
Yeah, he was in this. The guy who played Teller, I forget his name, but he was in it. He was in Licorice Pizza.
Fucking Josh Peck was in this, which he was in the trailer, I think.
Dude, like, I was like, what? And they were great too, like.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. And there's parts where I haven't been that on edge, like in a scene where I already knew the outcome, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think of like Dunkirk, which is also a Nolan film. Like I was just super on edge the entire time, but like it was good. It was amazing. Anyway, we can do movie in a minute and dive in because I want to talk about it. But I thought it was a masterpiece, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead. Well, I'll say what I'm gonna say at the end of the episode, but. Yeah, movie.
You're gonna nominate it for a Golden Good, aren't you?
Fuck yeah, I am, dude. You kidding me?
Okay, fair enough.
I've got a film that we might have 2 in a row here, because I've heard great things about Barbie. I haven't seen.
Just wait until you see Barbie.
Yeah, I've heard it's amazing. I've also heard that it pissed off a lot of men, so I think that's awesome.
Yeah, the ones that were never gonna get it in the first place
are too fragile to understand it. Sorry if I'm isolating our audience unintentionally. Anyway, it's your turn.
I don't want that audience.
Yeah.
If you're offended by a fucking Barbie movie,
you can move right along then.
Yeah, keep scrolling on your little podcast app.
All right, it's your turn, right?
Oh yeah, shit.
Pull up the this being sick is no excuse. Is no excuse for.
I didn't say I'm sick. I said shit.
Let me sing you a song.
Yeah, sing me a song.
Gonna do a movie in a minute.
But put it to like a Celine Dion song.
I don't know many of those. I know that Titanic song.
Okay.
Zach is gonna do movie in a minute. But he's sick, but that's okay, 'cause he's a trooper, and he's gonna do great. Near, far, wherever.
Because we're remote, but sometimes we're not remote. Near, far.
You can do movie in a minute.
I've had this timer pulled up for a while.
I figured you would.
I'm enjoying this.
All right, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Oh shit. Okay. All right.
It's a true story. It's nonfiction.
I know. Yeah, it should be.
All you're doing
very easy.
Is telling how the world changed forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Movie in a minute. Oppenheimer. In 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so we follow the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer. He went to Europe to study quantum physics, brought it back to the U.S. He was associated with the Communist Party for a while. He was never actually like a communist. He was called on for the Manhattan Project, and he was like basically in charge of whatever the fuck that little town was called, Los Alamos or something. And he like spearheaded the whole thing, created the atomic bomb, and then said, shit, we shouldn't have done this. He had a girlfriend that was like a mistress because he had a wife, but his mistress committed suicide because he wasn't there for her, and he felt really bad about that. Then the bomb blew up, and he felt really bad, and then he spent the rest of his life doing like trying to influence policy. And there was this really sleazy guy. It's Robert Downey Jr. in real life, and he tried to do things, and then he got stifled, and that's it.
Amazing.
Is that good?
Great word choice there. He got stifled.
Mm-hmm.
Good vocabulary. Mm-hmm. Strong. Shall we dive in?
Yeah.
Sploosh. God, I'm trying to think of it. Like this movie is one is 3 hours, so that there's a lot. Let me pull up like a synopsis or something like that. I don't even know how we want to approach this. What'd you think of them telling this story, which is, again, a nonfiction story, in a non-linear fashion, in true Nolan fashion, like in a true Nolan style. Do you think it got too confusing? Do you think it was too much? Do you think it was amazing?
No, I thought at first it was a little confusing because I wasn't sure where we were in the timeline. But then when I put 2 and 2 together, and it didn't really coalesce until the end, I thought it was brilliant. Did you notice right at the beginning, color was fusion and black and white was fission?
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think so.
So color, it was a shot of Oppenheimer, right? Mm-hmm. And it said fusion, 1, fusion, and then 2, black and white, was Robert Downey Jr.'s character. Can't remember his name. What was his name?
Strauss.
Louis Strauss. And it was fission, which is brilliant if you think about it, because Oppenheimer brought all these people together to, work on this project. And that was like his story, right? At least like the first half of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas Strauss was like ripping people apart and like doing all this shady shit in the background. Isn't that cool?
A bunch of shady shit. I think it's brilliant.
Isn't that cool?
I also loved and this is a little thing, but usually in films you'll see the past in a black and white setting.
You know what they did here.
No, I know. I love that. I think that it's awesome to kind of show the future in the black and white setting, and then the colors in the black and is in the past.
Well, it wasn't. Hold on, because it wasn't exactly that. It was like if the story was being told from Oppenheimer's perspective, or if it was like surrounding him, it was color. And if it was from Strauss's perspective or about Strauss, it was black and white. Because there are certain scenes that we see twice, and it's in black and white and color,
right.
but it's the exact same scene. It's just from a different angle.
I was going to say, too, actually, you're right, because even at the end, we see him older, getting his like medal or whatever, and it's color.
Right.
You know what's funny? This script was written in first person, which is like super rare, super strange.
Yeah.
But, like Nolan wrote it. I think Nolan wrote it actually. Yeah, Christopher Nolan wrote the screenplay too. He wrote it in first person. I was listening to an interview today with the cast. It was Nolan, Robert Downey Jr., Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, and Matt Damon. I think it was Matt Damon who was talking about it, but he was like, it's first person, so when you read it, it says instead of saying Oppenheimer walked over to the window, he says I walked towards the window. And so yeah, it's really interesting to think that like maybe the I sections were the ones that are all in color, and then Strauss is, you know what I'm saying? That makes sense?
Sure.
Which might not have been how it was.
But if Matt Damon was reading the script and saying, I walked over to the door, do you think each cast member had like a separate script?
No, because he was saying, like, instead of saying Oppenheimer walked to the window, it says I. So he implies that it's just like from Oppenheimer's perspective, because it's based off of it's not like his book, but American Prometheus.
It's a biography about him called American Prometheus. Which is flying off or has been flying off the shelves before this movie released. I don't know if Ethan finished it, but I know he was attempting to read the entire book before, which is, I think it's a pretty thick, thick boy. But I think he was trying to finish it before the movie ended. I
was going to say something, I forgot it was.
721 pages.
Good Lord. I had something I was going to ask you about, but I forgot it was.
Think with your brain.
What was it? I don't know. Damn.
Why are my lips so red?
I don't know. It's probably just because you're so flush.
I guess.
I really don't even know how to attack this movie, genuinely. But we start with him in school, correct?
Well, no. Chronologically, we would.
Yes.
But we start with him at like a deposition for his security clearance.
I've got to start seeing these movies like on Sunday afternoon, so that when we record, it's like
fresh.
It's like fresh, because this is a lot of movie. It's 3 hours, but you're right. He starts in his like quote unquote hearing, and they keep repeating, "This is not a court. This is not a
Right.
But he has a statement, yeah.
And he is talking about his start. And so, yes. the first flashback we get is him in school, and he's not feeling it. You just watched
this, so I'm going to let you lead this one.
Okay.
Even though
it
is your episode.
He's at I think it was Cambridge in the UK, and he doesn't like his tutor, and he tries to poison him with cyanide, and then he goes
later he says that he likes him very much.
Well, but in that moment he didn't like him.
Yes, fair.
And later on in the movie, if you want to jump there, even though you said you'd let me lead, you butthead, he says that he, was going through some stuff, and I think he went through some like psychoanalysis because he knew who Freud and who's the other one? I have a psychology major. Who's the other guy? Jung. He was talking about them with Florence Pugh's character when she's naked reading books or topless reading books.
Yes. And that's when he says the famous line too, which he says again.
He says it for the first time there. Yeah. And he goes to a lecture. I can't remember who gave the lecture, but it was someone famous. Was it Kenneth Branagh's character gave the first lecture?
Yes, it was.
It was?
It totally was. Yeah.
Bohm is like a quantum physicist. He's very well known. I took a fucking psychology class and we talked about him. About
there's
a bunch of different probabilities and stuff. It was somehow related to psychology. It's crazy.
No, it says Bohr.
Niels Bohr? Yeah, that's it. I was just speaking out of my ass, but it was Bohr.
It's amazing to me, and this is more like a history thing than it is just this movie, but I think it's well done. How many names you like recognize?
Well, we didn't recognize that one.
Well, no, but I'm saying of the greats. You know what I'm saying? There's another one like Bainbridge, and then Heisenberg.
Well, sure.
All these names.
It would have been the biggest flex. I know that at that point in time, Heisenberg was like young, but can you imagine if he goes to that lecture and it's fucking Bryan Cranston?
Wait, no, I'm thinking something else. I just watched a movie that he was surprisingly in, and I was like, wait, was Bryan Cranston in this? But no, that'd be amazing.
No, he was not.
But also Einstein's in this. All these people, I just think is amazing. Anyway, yes, he goes to this lecture.
And after the lecture, dude is like, hey, you're brilliant. You asked the only good question. You should get out of this shitty Cambridge because Cambridge fucking sucks and go to, he doesn't say that, and go to Göttingen in Germany and learn under some actual like quantum physicists.
So he goes there.
He meets Heisenberg there and they, talk and they're like, ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Then he returns to the U.S. and starts teaching at where Trey is.
Berkeley and Caltech. Well, not exactly where Trey is, but University of California, yes.
Isn't Trey at UC Berkeley?
No, he's at Davis.
You're right, he's at Davis.
He's officially faculty, by the way. He finished his residency yesterday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Amazing.
Congratulations, Trey.
Passed his boards too, so he's certified. He is a veterinarian professor. Not professor, but whatever his title is. Anyway, congrats, Trey. Love you.
Congrats, Trey. That's awesome. That is really cool. Does he have like a... Do you graduate and then do your residency, or do you do your residency and then graduate?
Both. He graduated, did his internship, graduated, did his residency, and graduated. Or like had a ceremony. He didn't like graduate from his residency.
How many graduations has Trey? So he had high school graduation, right? He had undergrad at UGA. He had vet school graduation at UGA. Yeah. And then he's had 3 in California?
No, he had his internship in Purdue.
Okay.
Graduated. And then he had...
Davis.
Davis.
So he's graduated 5 times.
5 times.
Dang.
And now he's faculty at the number 1 or number 2, one of the 2, vet school in the world.
Did y'all graduate in elementary school?
Heck, did y'all
get little fucking diplomas and like walk and sing some song about like the world or whatever, like we did at Kedron.
Yeah, we did. I don't know about the song, but we definitely graduated. What's happening back there?
She's chewing on something. I was just making sure it was something that she's allowed to chew on, and it is.
Okay, good. Anyway, yeah, so he's teaching, but I also loved that. I don't know. I just loved him being like the pioneer at Caltech and like Berkeley. He had like one student to begin, and he was super excited
because no one in the U.S. could comprehend quantum physics.
Yeah.
Was the what they were putting down for us to pick up, right? And he was right next to the lab of that guy who was like his buddy, but like
Ernest Lawrence
at a distance. Yeah, Ernest Lawrence.
The return of Josh Hartnett, the dude who vanished. He was in Pearl Harbor and vanished for like 20 years.
What?
The guy who plays Ernest Lawrence is Josh Hartnett.
And what happened with Josh Hartnett?
He was in Pearl Harbor with Ben Affleck, right?
Oh, a movie? I thought.
No. And not.
I thought you were saying this actor like disappeared in Pearl Harbor a long time ago.
He was in the movie Pearl Harbor with Ben Affleck. You know, it's Michael Bay or whatever, and it was a big deal. Yeah. He was in Black Hawk Down.
Mm-hmm.
And then he like sort of vanished for like 15 years. He did like small stuff. He did like I think he like chose to. He kind of took a step back.
Wasn't he in? Hold on. Wasn't he in didn't he do TV for a while?
Yeah, like he did some stuff. But apparently, I'm reading this real quick. Apparently, in the 2000s, he was approached several times to play Superman.
Interesting.
But then also, he was offered. So he said no to Batman in Batman Begins. So like he was actively like kind of staying out of the limelight, and then Chris Nolan's like, "Hey man, come back," and he's like, "Sick." Oh, the music video to "Pursuit of Happiness," you know, I'm on the pursuit of happiness. He directed it. How about that? Amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
Kid Cudi? Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, he's next to the lab of Ernest Lawrence. So who's the technical side, right? He's the guy who brings it from theory to practice, essentially.
Yeah, because he builds little machines and shit.
But the seeds of distrust begin to sow because he allows political meetings in his room. Is that what it is? Like clubs or whatever?
Yeah, so he's an activist, which is great. But it sort of gets in the way of his military research, and then his later. Here, give me a second. What are you doing? It's like a toy that crinkles, and apparently the inside of it's just a fucking water bottle. And so now she's gotten the water bottle out and she's just chewing on it. But
she hasn't. A few of those.
She hasn't eaten it, so I think it's okay.
How's she doing?
Kind of loud. Can you hear it?
Yeah, kind of, but it's all right.
You sure? Because I can take it away from her and just make her really sad.
No, it's
for
fine.
The pod. Okay. So back to the where were we? He has like he's like a sympathizer for the Communist Party, I guess you would say. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have like a card. He never officially joins. He's just like sympathetic to the cause. But at one of the get-togethers, his brother's dating this girl, and they end up getting married. And she's like a hardcore communist. And then he meets Jean Tatlock, Florence Pugh, and they have a little spicy little combo. I don't even remember what they said. I just know it cut to them having sex.
Mm-hmm.
And
and we hear the line, she like grabs a book Deering basically, and he says the famous, which is one of the most quoted lines ever. It's from I'm not sure how to say it, Bhagavad Gita, and it's and so I have become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Yep.
Which I think he says again when he does the Trinity test, and there's actually footage of him saying it, like it's filmed. And this is not the sex scene that everyone's like talking about. We'll get to the one that everyone's talking about. But yeah, so this first half, let's just, because there's so much of this that we probably can't go through it chronologically and get through everything. Up until he gets recruited for the Manhattan Project, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of everything so far?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like necessary backstory. It didn't feel like, okay, so this movie was 3 hours long and it did not stretch on too long, right? Like everything felt like it was needed. It painted a full story. I think it was done in a good way. So yeah, the first third, even though, he's not actively building the bomb yet, I thought was really, it carried the story forward. Like it was intriguing and interesting as I watched.
Well, it's great too because it's interlaced with these teases of kind of what's to come. You have Strauss and he actually is in a hearing, and you actually have cuts of Oppenheimer in his hearing and his little quasi hearing, and you kind of start to get pieces of like what the aftermath is before we actually see what happens. So he definitely does a good job of kind of keeping you in it, and it's not just like backstory and exposition. But even if it was, it's so well done, and it's super intentional. That's the thing about Nolan, man, is like, at least to me, every single shot, every single scene, every single word feels like it's so on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's and obviously I'm talking about a different kind of genre here, but there's no jokes for jokes' sakes where they make a quip and they pause for laughter. Like everything is intentional, it's on purpose, and it's natural, and it's like, I love that Nolan tells the audience, all right, keep up. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep up. They go through people, they rattle off names like we should know who they are, because in the world that they're living in, they're household names. In their circle, they're household names. And it's like, if you don't know who it is, okay, pay attention because we'll give you context clues. But if not, sorry,
You're out of luck.
I love when a director treats his audience like they're adults, and
well,
says,
Nolan does a good job of that.
He does. But yeah, then he gets, we meet Leslie Groves, Mr. Matt Damon. Are you okay? Are you going to make it through? Are you feeling like
I'm going to make it through. I'm just like, it takes me like 5 seconds to comprehend what you've said.
It is almost 10 o'clock, so I imagine you're
No,
exhausted.
this is the fever. It's like my brain is baking.
No, I'm saying like on top of that. But anyway, yeah, we meet Leslie Groves. What do you think of Matt Damon's performance in his character?
I mean, he did a great job. He was very. It's a very Matt Damon character, so it was a good casting. I think, you know what I mean. Like that's like the character that Matt Damon plays. But he did a great job. I know that Leslie Groves was like, if Oppenheimer was like the orchestrator of like all the scientists, Groves was the orchestrator of like all the resources and everything. Like if it wasn't for him, the nuke might not have gotten made, at least not that quickly.
Yeah.
Which maybe we'll talk about this later, but I want to ask you, if Robert Oppenheimer hadn't made the nuke, if you think that the nuke would have gotten made eventually. Like if World War II came to an end normally, do you think that the nuke still would have been created?
Oh, that's interesting.
Because Hitler was dead, and we dropped the nukes in Japan, which is awful. But the justification for it was that it was going to save a lot of lives because there was going to be this long campaign. It was called like Operation Downfall or something, and they were going to invade Japan, right? And it was just going to be.
What's interesting, and we can go on this tangent because I think this is what the film wants us to talk about anyway. Which we'll come back to the movie itself because there's vital parts and the filmmaking is incredible, but. I think it's fascinating because I was just about to ask you or mention that the film does a really great job of creating the urgency of like, we have to beat the Nazis to this.
Oh yeah,
because they're already doing it. But to your point, yeah, during this process, it takes years. It takes like what, 2 years, 3 years?
And a couple $1 billion, which back then, that is a lot of money.
Hitler does commit suicide, so Hitler's dead. And so the war is dwindling, but their logic is that Japan has repeatedly refused to surrender under any circumstances.
Well, and most historians believe that they wouldn't have surrendered if we hadn't dropped 2 nukes on them, and that it would have been a long, drawn-out conflict.
I think that they say, like, based on their culture and, like, the honor that they fight with, that they would have just not surrendered until, I guess, just, like, defeated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even when I read some stuff about it, they said that they dropped the second one because they dropped the first one, and apparently the Japanese thought, well, for sure, these kind of bombs take a long time to build, so they don't have another one.
They've only got one of those, right?
Yeah, so we don't surrender, and then boom, they did another one, and they're like, okay, we're done. But I think, when you first started asking that question, I thought, well, of course it would have been built if Oppenheimer didn't do it. But when you said if World War II had ended, quote unquote, normally, that's interesting. Because I think so. I think eventually, because I think another war would have just started up again eventually.
Well, because
it changed war.
Yeah,
it became the Cold War. And I was going to say yeah.
But this, I'm not sure if I was just misreading some things, but it almost seemed like Nolan was leading. I don't know I haven't read his biography, right? I don't know all the history. But it seemed like Nolan was laying down that Oppenheimer, whether it was intentional or not, sort of like fed secrets to the Russians that allowed them to start creating nukes of their own. Right?
No,
information. There was a spy.
Yeah, I thought it was revealed who it was later.
Right. But what I'm saying is, the Russians started creating nukes because information was being fed to them from Oppenheimer's operation. So if Oppenheimer hadn't created the nuke, they wouldn't have gotten that information, and would it have been pursued? I guess is my question.
I think it would have been pursued until the Nazis either did or couldn't do it.
Okay, but the Nazis were defeated, so it wasn't Nazis anymore.
Fair.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a valid question. I think it might have taken longer, but what's interesting is that, because there's a line in there somewhere, I think it's Oppenheimer who says it, where it's like, this is the weapon that will end all wars, or something like that.
Well, what he was saying, and what he thought was going to happen, was that if the world saw the destruction that the atomic bomb was capable of creating, that it would unanimously be decided that we will not have war anymore.
Yeah.
How and foolish then, of him. Huh?
I said, how foolish of him to think that, unfortunately.
Right. How naive. And then when he realized that didn't work, think about the haunting scene. It's like a horror movie where he's giving this speech.
Oh, this is such a great scene.
And everyone's just like fucking cheering, and he hears like a girl like scream, and then he like looks at this other girl and her face is melting off, and it's just, you know what I mean? Like, they're all like so excited that they just killed all these people, and he's just like horrified on the inside, right? Yeah. And so he's like coming to realize that not everyone sees it. Some people do. Like, there's this guy crying with his girlfriend, and then there's this guy throwing up outside, right? But the vast majority of people are just like, yeah, we killed those fuckers, essentially.
Yeah, and what's crazy is, like, first off, that scene is incredible. It does such a good job of like showing his almost like dissociation, and
right?
Like the look on his face is just pure like numbness almost.
And the behind him is like shaking, right?
Yeah.
His whole world is just...
Exactly. So he's giving the speech, and like people are cheering, and that like roar of the feet stomping, which they use in the trailers, and it kind of creeps in throughout the movie. And then, what he's saying, you can tell he just doesn't believe it.
Oh, sure.
He's like so disillusioned, where he's like, he says stuff that's like, it's cheesy, and he's just like, well, sure as heck wouldn't have been the Nazis or something. And people just like lose their minds and they go crazy. But what's great about the scene is that he can't even hear it. It's like just like it's like a droning to him.
Right.
But he just keeps, and each time he says something, he just looks more and more like defeated. And
sure.
Just like empty. It's a great scene. Great scene.
It was a good scene. What were we talking about before that?
About like whether or not the bomb would have been made. But let's talk about the actual bomb. Like, I think how they showed the creation of it's very fascinating. It's very interesting. The amount of knowledge that he had to have done like research on to write the script in a way that was like, one, correct, but also like interesting is just incredible to me.
Well, there are directors that just like write a script and just like make a movie. I'm thinking about a lot of contemporary films. Mm-hmm. And they just like throw some shit together and make it, and they don't really care. And then there are directors that are like fucking obsessive. And James Cameron, all the work that he did to create the fucking Avatar universe, there's like books and books of lore that he's either put together or had a very large part in the creation of, right? Mm-hmm. And then Christopher Nolan is going to do all the research and learn all the things so that it's like rock solid, right? That's like who he is as a director. That's why he's not cranking out like a movie every year, because he's got to do his due diligence.
Yes, exactly. And then he has to, he has to set off an actual bomb to do the actual filming, which I think there's only a handful of visual effects shots that are CGI enhanced. I'm not going to say created, because I think they're all practical, but they're maybe just embellished.
I thought I had read that it was all practically done. Even the like quantum realm shit that we see is like practically done, and it just looks that way. Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else then. But yeah, he set off a bomb like more than once to film this.
A nuke?
That's insane, man. That's just insane. I don't think it was a nuke. Was it actually?
No, it was not a
nuke. But what do you think of the whole Trinity test scene? Like we build up to it, and then it finally happens. I was like hyped, but also like super anxious, even though I knew like the world isn't, because they thought the world was going to end.
It was like I had the same anxiety during that whole sequence, which was like 10 minutes long, that I did watching like Uncut Gems. It's just stressful. Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. I thought that guy that like ran outside with like 10 seconds left, I thought he was going to be...
he was dead.
Yeah, I thought he was dead too. And they didn't show like a charred body or like someone whose eardrums has been blown out or anything like that. So I guess he made it.
Yeah, I thought for sure somebody's eyes were going to be blinded or something like that. But
right. Like they weren't going to understand just how powerful it was, and it was going to like fuck some people up. I'm glad that it didn't, but... Yes. The long gap between the actual explosion and the wave of sound, like the shock wave, was haunting. I don't know,
it's just haunting, man. And like the whole notion of like, hey, this could also just destroy the world. Maybe, like he meets with Einstein to be like, run these numbers, like, is this possible? And he was like, yeah, I mean, whatever. It's near zero.
I have so many questions that I was telling you right when I got out of the movie that I wish we like push this episode back like a week or two, because so I could do some fucking research. Like, I want to know, theory can only take you so far. He says that. Maybe not in those words, but that's what he says, right?
Yeah.
I want to know if after they started testing atomic bombs, they realized that the chance of combusting the atmosphere is zero, or if it's still like almost zero, and every time we blow up a nuke, if it could happen. Like, I'm curious, right?
You know what's funny is like, it's still wild to me. Well, I'll come back to that. But yeah, like that idea, like they were that desperate, I guess, to be like, we have to build this first, even though this could literally destroy everything. And we'll get back to that, whether or not they started that chain reaction, because I think that's how the movie ends. I want to shift. I know I sort of hijacked this, but I know you're sick and exhausted, so I'm trying to help you out. We've barely even talked about him, but I also want to talk about Strauss. So the bomb gets built, it gets dropped on Japan. Oppenheimer starts being haunted. He starts kind of pushing back against the use of nuclear weapons. He goes and meets with Truman, which we have Gary Oldman make a surprise cameo, and tells Truman that he feels like he has blood on his hands. But to your point, Zach, like you said earlier, in that rally, everybody's like just super hyped, like, hey, we won the war. Those Japs got what they deserved when, all this sort of propaganda stuff. And Oppenheimer's like, we killed like 300,000 people, most of them who were innocent.
Yeah.
And most of them died like maybe like they were instant, but a lot of them died like horrible deaths. And then, the government wants an H-bomb program because I think it's Teller who says, let's do hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
So Truman wants an H-bomb. Oppenheimer's like, no, but he's still like this famous voice in science, and so he's making it tough. And so Strauss has this subtle and sneaky plan to sort of discredit Oppenheimer. And so I want to talk about, just briefly, because I know we're already like at an hour. I know that we're already pushing it. What do you think of Downey Jr., like in this kind of role?
Well, I've seen a bunch of shit on Twitter where people are like, oh, this proves he could act. Because I guess people were like, as Iron Man, he was just like a a Marvel superhero, which is very like formulaic and blah 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 blah. Robert Downey Jr. has always been able to act. He was in plenty of movies before he became Iron Man. I think he did a great job. I mean, I fell for his shtick. I don't know if that's him in his performance or if it's Christopher Nolan, but I was like behind him. I thought he was a good guy until he wasn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
And he just brings this energy to the role that I think was very fitting for like this. I don't know what you would label him as. Like was his goal just to like progress as far as he possibly could in life? Like, fuck everyone else. I don't care who I burn bridges with.
He'd play the game, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he did a wonderful job.
Yeah, I think he definitely comes across as somebody who's a professional at playing the game of politics. Like, there's that one, I forget the guy's name, but his like advisor, he played Han Solo in the Solo movie.
Isn't he like
Alden?
What's his name?
Heinrich. Alden Heinrich.
That's right.
There's the whole scene where like Strauss kind of seems like he's like on his heels, and he's like, "What should I do?" But then like it cuts to the next scene, and he's like one step ahead already. And that sort of shows the first little sneakiness of Strauss. But I also think it's so interesting to show him, like before he's like this snake, but show him giving Oppenheimer the tour of Harvard, I think, something like that. And he's like this super nice, like friendly guy.
Mm-hmm. But then Oppenheimer has a conversation with Einstein, and they talk about like that's the end of the movie, right? Even though it happened,
which we'll come back to, but yes.
Okay. But Einstein walks by him and doesn't even look at him.
Yeah.
And Strauss's ego, he thinks it was about him because that's the kind of character he is, right?
Yes.
It's like, what the fuck did you say to him?
And I loved, and we can just start jumping around now because it's already been an hour, but I loved how at the end, like when his Senate aide is like, realize that Strauss is the snake and it's all been like a ploy or whatever. And then Strauss keeps bringing up the Einstein conversation, like he's obsessed with it, like you were saying. And then he was humiliated by like the isotopes, or whatever, like in court, and he just like holds these grudges, and he's like, yeah, I told you that he talked to Einstein, and now he hates me, or whatever. And the Senate aide is like, they could have been talking about something that didn't include you at all. They could have been talking about something that's more important. The way that he delivers that line, and like Strauss is like flabbergasted. Like he's like, how dare you think anything's more important than me? What do you think that conversation was until we saw it at the end?
I thought it was something to do with like blowing the whole fucking world up. So that wasn't.
So you were spot on.
Yeah, I mean it's Oppenheimer talking to Einstein. You know.
Yeah.
When you operate in this mindset of quantum physics from Oppenheimer's perspective, or like relativity from Einstein's perspective, what else could you say to someone to like think about how heavy the subject matter that they deal with is on a daily basis for large portions of their lives.
Yeah.
You know, it had to have been something heavy. It wasn't going to be like the Mets lost.
Yeah.
You know.
Which they did yesterday.
Which happens a lot.
We love. I'm going to be jumping around real quick, but I don't want to forget, as we kind of get towards the end, let's talk about the for some reason, controversial sex scene.
Is it controversial?
Maybe not, because since the movie came out, I haven't seen much, but when it was coming out, I saw like 5 or 6 posts of pages being like, Nolan filmed a sex scene and we need to talk about it. Like
because it's not a traditional sex scene. It's very Nolan.
Well, I think what it was is that they wouldn't give any details because the movie wasn't out yet and people hadn't seen it. And I was just like, what are we going to see? Like a boob? Is that what's so controversial? But it's an interesting portrayal of it. I really loved it, where it's him and it's Gene and Oppenheimer. He still goes to see her even though he's married, and this actually comes back to bite him. And actually, I think it inadvertently leads to Gene committing suicide. But they spend time together. They have sex, but then they're just sitting in these chairs, right? Mm-hmm. Both of them completely naked, just talking. And I thought it was framed super interesting. It was super tasteful, but also like it was really, what's the word? Like it was bare. You know what I mean? Like literally.
Because they were naked.
Because they were naked. What'd you think of it, for real?
I mean, have you never had a naked hotel conversation with somebody?
Oh, totally.
Just like smoke a cigarette, sit across.
I think what's interesting is like people thought that was so strange, but it's like that's about as intimate as it can get.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jean's character was very interesting to me because, I mean, she was like in love with him.
Yeah, but she was like, don't call me or whatever.
Right, yeah. So like at the beginning, and she had her own shit going on, I'm sure. But she was like, don't bring me flowers, don't answer my calls, like leave me alone. It was just an interesting dynamic. What did you think about her death scene where at one point there's a shot where she's just like in the tub by herself, and then there's another shot where there's like black gloved hands like pushing her down into the water? Did you pick up on that?
Oh, I don't know. I might have missed that.
Yeah, so at one point she's like being pushed under the water. And there's a theory that she was murdered, but I don't know if Nolan was hinting at that, or if it was more so like those were Oppenheimer's hands, and he was the one actually doing it in his mind because he felt guilty because he wasn't there for her. I like that interpretation better, but you didn't catch that?
I think when I think back, I remember seeing kind of more than one version of that death scene.
Well, it's all in the same like sequence, like it all happens together, right?
Yeah. But I like that interpretation of like Oppenheimer's the one who killed her, essentially.
Well, he's not, but
well, no, I know, but
he feels that way.
Maybe in her mind, but also like in his mind. He definitely feels like it is. And I love that scene. We haven't talked about Emily Blunt much either, but she was great in this movie too. I love when she was when badass. When she finds him and she has that line of like, how can you expect to sin and then what is it like?
How can you sin and then play the victim and make everyone feel bad for you or something like that, right?
Yeah, or like how can you sin and then expect us to feel bad for your consequences?
Yeah,
or something like that. And she's like,
pull your shit. Yeah, pull yourself together. Yeah. Get your shit together.
Get your shit together, man. She was great. Everyone was just like on top of their game in this.
Mm-hmm.
Even the guy, like I forget his name, but the prosecutor,
David Desmalchian.
Well, yes, he was great, but I mean the prosecutor in the Oppenheimer hearing, the little small hearing.
Oh, what's his name?
He's been in a lot of stuff too. I can't think of his name. No, I can't. This cast list is so huge.
Was that
I can't find him.
Wolfpack? Were you singing Wolfpack?
No, but I love Wolfpack. What is this guy's name? Anyway, doesn't matter. He was great. They were all great. But we're already
Jason Clarke.
That's it.
He was in Zero Dark 30. He was in like. Did you see Pet Sematary?
No.
In 2019. No. Yeah, he was in that. He was in one of the Planet of the Apes movies, I think.
Let's we can go towards the end now and kind of wrap up, but I'd love to know just so he's discredited, he loses his clearance, and then Einstein has that great line of being like how he was kind of shunned and then they brought him back, but he was like, it was for them, not for you. So he's like, your government will re-embrace you, but don't forget that it's for them, not for you. And then it cuts to the future where
now keep in mind when Oppenheimer or when Einstein says that to Oppenheimer, that was in the past.
Yes.
So that was before he was like lost his security clearance.
Yeah.
So he's basically being like, prophetic and saying,
listen,
you did this thing, you completed the project, it's awful, I know, it really sucks. They're going to treat you like poo-poo and then treat you like yay later on in life. But it's for them, it's not for you.
And like even this past year, like the Biden administration like officially, I guess like retracted their decision to strip him of his clearance, even though he's been dead for 60 years. But we get to the end. He's kind of, and this moment actually doesn't. When this moment happens in chronological order, he hasn't been stripped of his clearance yet. But we finally find out what he says and what's been said between him and Einstein. And how did you feel during that last sequence? And then we can wrap it up.
I mean, it was the most fitting ending. And it makes sense, right? I mean, shit. I don't know what you want me to say. It was very fitting for the movie. He said, you know how I gave you that little equation and we thought we were going to like start a chain reaction that was going to like ignite the entire world? And Einstein was like, yeah, how could I forget? And he says, well, I think I did it.
Yeah.
Boom, Oppenheimer. Because, he's given them the means to destroy themselves.
Well, and it's just like that, seeing how that affected Einstein so quickly when he walks past Strauss, but also like that shot of like Oppenheimer's face, which was everywhere in the trailers and the promo stuff. It's one of the first shots that we saw, just his face. It's just terror, like, but like resolve, but also just like horror and just guilt. And it's not the chain reaction that they expected, but he believes that.
But the one that they deserved. Sorry, I was
go.
pulling in Batman quotes.
And that's something that, like, those 2 bombs in Japan are the only nuclear weapons that have ever been fired or detonated in an act of war, ever. And so, in a sense, maybe he did create a weapon that ended those kinds of wars, sort of, not entirely, changed war, but by creating that piece, we achieved it by everybody just building enough nukes to scare each other. You know what I mean?
Well, in building more and more powerful nukes. So now we have thermonuclear devices, hydrogen bombs, what Teller was working on, and Russia does too. Like, I think the largest explosion ever recorded that we know about was, and I could be wrong about this, but I remember, you go down like a Wikipedia rabbit hole when you're supposed to be doing homework for Mr. Gerald's class, but you're not doing the homework for Mr. Gerald's class, and you're reading about like big explosions and shit. Like, I learned about this bomb the same night that I learned about the Halifax explosion, which they talk about in this movie. They mention it briefly, which that was a fucking tragedy. This boat just fucking killed a bunch of people. Yeah. Anyways, the Tsar Bomba is like a Russian thermonuclear device that at one point was the biggest fucking thing that had ever been blown up, and it was massive. Like, it was like hundreds and hundreds of times more powerful than the bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I'm gonna do a little research. You talk for a bit. I don't want to be wrong.
No, you're fine. I just want to just add to that. Like, I think it's wild. I thought it was so, just the way that he wrapped it up and kind of showing what Oppenheimer kind of foresaw and like the end of the world, and that we have the means to do that to ourselves right now. It wasn't the chain reaction that they expected, but it was in fact a chain reaction that he believed would lead to the annihilation of the planet. Mm-hmm. And just what a thing to leave you on. You know what I mean? Just be like, by the way, here's this. This is real. This could happen at any moment. That's insane. And while you're doing that, I'm going to give my final thoughts. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. What were the nukes called that we dropped? It was Little Boy and Big Man. What's the other one called?
I know it was Little Boy, but I don't remember what the that was called. But anyway, I thought it was a masterpiece. I thought it's one of my favorite Nolan films. I'm going to give it some time and maybe another watch, hopefully in IMAX, because I got some recency bias for sure.
Oh, in IMAX.
But this is officially being nominated for a Golden Good on my end. So, Zach, while you're doing that, I'm going to ask you a question. Is that okay with you?
Mm-hmm. Fat Man.
Fat Man.
That's what I'm calling you.
This movie debuted at 94% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. But I have to ask you, Zach, but is Oppenheimer good?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I'm still processing it to this. Like, we're gonna get off here, and I'm gonna be laying in bed going, "Oh fuck, we should have talked about that."
No.
There's just so much. Nolan gives you so much to chew on. It's like a really nice, like, well marbled, not overcooked steak, and you can just like. It just stays hot somehow. It's like some sort of fucking Willy Wonka magic, where it's just like the perfect temperature, and it doesn't need sauce, and you can just like chew on it for weeks. Also, random. This is last minute shout out to Ludwig Göransson. Did the score? Oh yeah, great job.
It's a long way from Childish Gambino stuff, but
so Fat Man was 21 kilotons of TNT was the yield.
The power.
The Tsar Bomba, which is the largest or the most powerful nuclear weapon ever created and tested, was 58 megatons of TNT, which is like significantly more powerful.
That's insane. When did it get detonated?
It was tested in 1961.
1961. God, that's what, like 15 years after Hiroshima or something like that.
Something like that.
It just goes to show like how fast it escalated, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Zach, should we do Every Movie Sucks?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah? You sure?
I was going to say, I doubt we can find any bad reviews.
I've found one. This says, I watched 2 minutes of it in French, then left because I don't speak French.
This one says, this lacks Kenergy.
Oh my God. Give me a lot of trolls on here. Let's see here. This is so long. Good Lord. Too long. Too boring to watch, too loud to fall asleep to.
Where's the Einstein sex scene? Cowards.
I'm going to read just one paragraph because this dude wrote like an actual novel. Second watch, oh boy. This was definitely worse on the rewatch. All the scenes that had even an ounce of suspense in the film just didn't hit. But the scenes I liked for other reasons on the first watch held up better than ever, which was a small plus. Sadly, these scenes that I appreciated were few and far between as it really only took up maybe 6 minutes of 3-hour runtime. I've been really debating even writing this just because I don't want this film taking more of my time away, but here we are.
Here's one that says, this could have been an email.
That's funny. I'll do one more. Wait, let's see this. This is interesting. Here we go. This guy ranked all these on a scale of 1 to 10, okay?
Okay.
Ready? Characters, 7. Plot, 3. Pacing, 1. Writing, 1. Tone, 6. Cinematography, 8. Soundtrack, 1. Acting, 6. Themes, 5. Bruh, get out of here. All right, I'm done with that. You got any more?
Oppenheimer? I barely know her. Oh, goodness. People are stupid. And that's a half-star review. Like, were you just doing that for the joke?
Yeah, probably. All right, cool. Time for shindigs. I have a little bit of news.
Yeah.
The first piece of news is something that you sent me. A trailer for Dear David, which apparently is based off of a Twitter thread of some guy being haunted.
That's right.
We have surprise, endless DCEU Snyderverse rumors and shit. They have released behind-the-scenes pictures of Ben Affleck's Batman in his black and silver batsuit from the original Flash post-credit scene, which would have ended with with Ben Affleck saying, "Bruce, come find us. Barry, come find us." And now folks are saying, "Release the machete cut," and I'm just tired of it, man. I'm just so tired of it. I love DC, but good Lord, get out of here.
That's the DC thing, man.
So that's happening. Suit looks cool, but whatever. Netflix has canceled their live-action He-Man film. So sad. Anyway, a live-action Borderlands film, which is a video game, I think, is set to be released on August 9th.
Yes, it's a video game.
Listen to this. Kate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Ariana Greenblatt, Florian Montu, and Jamie Lee Curtis are in Borderlands.
That checks out.
We already did Oppenheimer. It debuted at 96%. It's sitting at 94%. Barbie debuted at 93%. I don't know what it's at right now. Let me see if I can find out.
Last I checked, it was like 90 on the dot.
It is 91.
Oh, wow.
90. Oh, actually, no, it's down to 90. 90, you're right.
Oh, wow.
So it's 90. We got a new trailer for a film called A Haunting in Venice. Apparently, Sony is looking at Ana de Armas for the lead in the new Spider-Woman film that's being developed. Don't care. The Chosen, which is a biblical TV series, has an exemption from the strike, so they are like one of the few shows that's still filming.
How?
I don't know. Maybe because it's like church.
Okay, but has Hollywood ever? Okay, whatever. Maybe they're filming. I think certain countries have laws against things, so maybe if they're filming in like the UK or something, they can't do it.
And then this is not about a movie, but it's entertainment news. We lost a legend, and that is Tony Bennett died at the age of like 96, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So rest in peace, Tony Bennett.
Did you give the box office numbers for Barbie and Oppenheimer? Because it was a big fucking weekend.
I haven't got updated ones, but I saw they were like 85 and like 150, but that was like they've gone up since then.
155 million Barbie made. And Oppenheimer made 93.7 million.
Wow, which is good. People think like, oh, it got beat, but like that's a solid opening for anybody.
But overall, it was like one of the biggest box office weekends in recent memory.
Yeah,
because there were two big movies.
Packed.
I mean, there were more people, which obviously the box office numbers tell the tale. There were more people today and yesterday dressed in pink waiting to go see Barbie than there were to see Oppenheimer.
We were standing in line, and this woman in front of us, I guess she was there with like her daughters. They were all dressed up. They were like, "Isn't it crazy that this movie is just so big?" And she like looked at us, and she was like, "Are you guys here to see Barbie, or that other one?" And we were like, "The other one."
The other one.
But there was a good handful.
Did you see it with Hannah?
Yeah, I did. Hannah saw it with me.
Did she like it?
She didn't like it like I did, but she did like it. She was like, it was long, and she got a little confused, but she was like, it was really good.
Yeah.
We had some folks in suits too at all the NCG, so that was fun. But yeah, it's good to see, and I'm hopeful that these kinds of movies that are more artistic and more intentional are getting some more love, because even like Mission Impossible, I think was really good. So.
I'm surprised He-Man got canceled after Barbie did so well, because it's another action figure, like, you know.
Well, yeah, they're making like 45 movies about their toys or some shit. Anyway, Zach, Braves?
I'm waiting for the Furby movie, personally.
That'll be huge.
The Braves are doing okay. I mean, they're still not playing that well. We signed a couple pitchers that look like projects. And what I mean by that is that they don't have the best stats this far in the in the season. But keep in mind that the World Series champion Braves signed players like Jock Peterson, Eddie Rosario, and Adam Duvall, who all were. I think Adam Duvall was hitting lights out, but Eddie Rosario and Jock Peterson kind of felt like projects when we got them.
So did Soler.
Yeah. Yes, Soler. Did we already have Duvall? Am I making up that we signed Duvall then?
No. We got him because he was killing us. Remember, he was like killing us
on the Marlins. He was on the Marlins, and we got 4 outfielders over the course of like 10 days.
Yeah.
Right before the deadline, and then went on a tear. So trust in AA. Alex Anthopoulos. I'm sure he's got it all figured out. I think we're getting a bunch of pieces together to trade for Ohtani, you know.
Yeah,
and then we're going to sign him to like a 10-year, $10 million. Oh goodness.
I don't see him coming to the Braves, but I would love it.
Yeah, I don't see him coming to the Braves either, but that would be insane.
Yeah.
Insane. There's no other player that I would like. There was a time where I was like, oh, it'd be cool if we got like Aaron Judge, but I mean, I don't know. The only one, because we're so good already, the only one that would like really make a fucking splash in our lineup and in our rotation, I feel like would be Ohtani. Like that would be insane.
Have you heard about Donaldson? Remember how badly we all wanted him to stay Brave?
Yeah.
And he's hurt again. He's like on the 60-day IL for the Yankees. He's like done.
Well, but I think there's something about the brights being the lights being too bright in New York that causes players to regress if they're not ready for that. Because wasn't Rizzo like really fucking good, and he's been
Cubs,
like kind of lackluster since he's been on the Yankees?
Yeah, he was seen as like the second top second, like the second free agent first baseman of a few years ago.
I feel like he was...
I say that because Matt Olson wasn't a free agent. He was on the A's.
Right. I feel like he was up there in like the power rankings for like hitters and fielders, and he's kind of fallen off since going up to New York too. Think about the other team in New York and how badly they're playing. Like they got amazing. So both Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer are having like their worst season in the past like 10 years. Both of them are.
Yeah.
Which you could say
they're going to trade one of them already.
Yeah. Well,
he just signed Verlander.
Yep.
Makes me happy. Anyway, Zach, that was very brave of you.
It's the bravest thing I've done all week.
Whiskey shots? I don't think you're going to take a shot of whiskey because you're sick, but I have a shot of whiskey.
It'll be good for my throat. You know, okay, that's cool. That's what my like family. We're like Swedes from like Wisconsin, and that's what you can't get medicine out in those out in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. All they have is cheese and whiskey. So they drink whiskey.
Well, here's to hope you're feeling better. And to whiskey.
Cheers, whiskey.
Cheers, whiskey. Clink. Oh, nice and warm.
Where can they find us?
They can find us on... they can find us on X.
That's right.
Whatever the fuck it's called now. Twitter, whatever it's called. At BIIG Podcast. Yeah. You can email us at BIIGpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And probably Threads here soon. Whatever. At But Is It Good Podcast. Please say hello. We're doing Barbie next week, so which one won for you out of the Barbenheimer? I did a poll. I think it's over. It's too late. I did a poll on our Instagram, and Barbie won. I think Barbie won like easily. So there you have it. But I'm excited to see it. Anyway, that's all. Zach, go to bed.
All right, I'm going to go lay down. I'm going to drink some sleepy time tea.
Sleepy time tea. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
See ya. But Is It Good Podcast? Yeah.